Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another video. We're doing another episode of Retro Read Through today. We're going back in time to White Dwarf 185. Now if you look at the cover you might be forgiven for thinking this one was all about Codex Ultramarines, but like a lot of White Dwarfs from back in the day, the cover art didn't always represent what was in the magazine. The next one that we're going to be looking at, White Dwarf 173, the cover art did actually match an article that's in there, so they did do it occasionally, but for this one unfortunately, much to Nick Baton's dismay I might add, although it's got Codex Ultramarines artwork on the cover, they're not actually in the magazine. But without further ado, let's have a look what is actually in there. Another great edition of White Dwarf from back in the day. This one is from May 1995, and looking at the front cover we've got Mordian Iron Guard there fighting off an orc attack, and then we've got Prince Tyrion of the High Elves against the Lord of Skaven. So we've got High Elves coming up very soon for Old World. As you can see, cover Codex Ultramarines by Dave Gallagher, classic bit of art, second edition, loads of bright colours. Then we've got, as usual, the latest news and releases from Games Workshop. Space Marine Whirlwind, so the latest vehicle to arrive for the Space Marines in Warhammer 40,000 second edition. The Whirlwind was the Rhino chassis with basically the metal turret on the top. Heavy metal, so we've got various different Marines, Manius Calgar, we've got Standard Bearer, Librarians and Warlord Titan. Death or Glory, which is a Warhammer Fantasy Battle campaign or scenario that you can use. We've got Chimera Assault, which was epic. Games Day and Golden Demon 95, all the categories from that. Then we've got some heavy metal features, Warhammer characters. Then we've got Astragoth, High Priest of Hashut, Chaos Dwarf Lord, which we'll have a look at as well. Then there's an article on the Tallarn Desert Raiders. Now, over the last few issues of White Dwarf during this period, I think starting at 180, which was Catachan Jungle Fighters, or it might have been 181, they had Imperial Guard in each one. So we had Catachans, then Cadian, then I think it was Valhalla Ice Warriors, then Mordian Iron Guard, and then Tallarn Desert Raiders. I think that was the order that they did it in. And this one is about the Tallarn, some rules in there as well, and the miniatures came out this month. And then we've got Mission Impossible, a Warhammer Quest scenario, Wolves of Fenris, so some painted versions of Space Wolves which are really nice, which we'll have a look at, and then a Hobby Workshop which was making a Warhammer building out of card as well. So nice issue, this one. So let's have a look what came out this month. So they were recruiting heavy metal painters and a proofreader as well to go and join the team down in Nottingham. I bet that was pretty interesting applying for that one back in the day. For Warhammer Fantasy Battle releases, so we had Krell, Lord of the Undead, $4.99, Astragoth, Chaos Dwarf High Priest, $4.99, Skaven Warpfire Thrower, $4.99, Chaos Knight, $3.99, High Elf Dragon Princes of Calador, £3.99 each, and Reaver Knights, £2.99 each. What would we give to go back to those prices? See one of the Dragon Princes there. Next issue was Free Plastic Wizard. I do remember getting one of those. I didn't get that one though, it was a different one. Various books that are out: Red Thirst, Harlequin, Wolf Riders, and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay the book. So some interesting releases that month for Warhammer Fantasy. And then moving on, Warhammer 40,000, more jobs for sale, more jobs advertised there I should say. Warhammer 40,000 releases for this month. So we had Warhammer 40,000 Battles, which was the artwork from White Dwarf 168, Eldar Aspect paint set, Dark Angels paint set, Space Marine Whirlwind £15, Manius Calgar $4.99, Space Marine Company Standard Bearer $2.99, Tech Marine Epistolary Librarian all $2.99, Imperial Guard Tallarn Desert Raiders 10 miniatures $12.99. Can't argue with that. Mordian Iron Guard Lieutenant £2.75, which is that one. Now interestingly, I don't really like the Mordian Iron Guard, but I do really like that miniature, it's pretty cool. There's a Pit Fighter from Warhammer Quest, that was $9.99, but it came with the miniature cards and counters and a rulebook, some blank event cards and some treasure cards as well for Warhammer Quest. So that's pretty awesome. And then there you go, that's the Warhammer Battles book with the artwork from White Dwarf 168. I have done a retro read through of that issue as well. You can find that in the playlist. Then Epic, there was some releases for Imperial Warlord Titan £10, Chimera, Chimedon and Chimerax, which are all basically Chimera variants depending on which weapons they had mounted on the top. Games Workshop Harrogate, again advertising for retail staff. And then we have the new Space Marine Whirlwind, so basically a Rhino chassis with a couple of different hatches, and then we have the metal missile turret there with the Marine just tucked in. And then we've got rules and background on the Space Marine Whirlwind there by Ian Pickstock. Some nice art as usual, going up against some Goth Orcs. And then examples on how to fire it with the misfire dice and the I can't remember if it's a scatter dice or not, but some cool artwork. Rules for your Whirlwind and a couple of examples of how it works. 150 points. And then moving on, we've got the old metal power armor Marneus Calgar. Again, as per the time, we had the banners that you could either cut out if you weren't bothered about trashing your magazine, or you could photocopy them and paint them or whatever. 2 variants of the Tech Marine. I remember having that one with the helmet. Company standard bearer, and then you've got different battle company banners there. 3rd company, you know, the specialists fighting the Tyranids. 4th company, defenders of Ultramar. 5th company as well. Moving on, we've got a card there for your Space Marine Whirlwind that you can cut out, fold in half and glue together, or mount it on some card. So these were the vehicle cards that used to come in Warhammer 40,000 2nd edition with everything you needed to know about the vehicle. Space Marine Librarians, we've got Epistolary, painted up as Ultramarines or Blood Angels. We've got some old school classic snake bites there, going up against the Blood Angels, and a Furioso Dreadnought. I used to love the Orc terrain that they used to build for these pictures in White Dwarf. And then moving on, we've got a list of stores there. And then Death or Glory. So this is the scenario for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. We've got Empire War Wagon going up there against the Undead. Obviously we've just seen that come back slightly modified, so that's pretty cool for Warhammer the Old World. And then here there's various different scenarios about defending this Molten Castle, which is pretty cool. Interesting read. You've got some nice artwork as well. But it's good that they used to do stuff like this. And then Warhammer Fantasy Battle, this is the 4th edition, which came with goblins and high elves. We got high elves, spearmen and archers. And these aren't the ones that are going to be coming back for the Old World, unfortunately. These are the earlier monopose ones, which are still really nice actually. We had some card buildings, card high elf character, and dragon, Grom the Paunch, Orc boss on Wyvern, Grom the Paunch, bolt thrower. So yeah, really nice box. And I do have this box with the exception of that Battle Bestiary book, which I need to find and add to my collection. And again, moving on, this is a scenario that you can do for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So pretty cool that they used to have that in there and stuff like that. I do love these old coloured maps. Exterminatus Roadshow. So going across various different stores, you used to get a poster as well if you went along. Didn't need to take anything, just turn up and play. And then moving on, we've got Chimera Assault for Epic. So we've got Chimera Assault Squadron, Chimerax and Chimedon. So rather than a battle cannon, this one's got a battle cannon that replaces the multi-laser. The Chimerax is got 4 auto cannons, and then the Chimera, obviously you've got your normal multi-laser. So interesting that they have these different versions. So Chimerax auto cannon, Chimedon battle cannon, and the Chimera multi-laser and hunter killer missile. All carry 2 troop stands, so nice and interesting. I love the blue and white camo scheme they've gone for there as well. And then we've got our cards that was for 2nd edition Space Marine that you would find in the box. So we've got more cards in White Dwarf that you can cut out and put some card on. Imperial Warlord Titan, so the later version of the Warlord Titan with the more squared off shoulders. Nice miniature, I remember that. Looks like it's painted up as Legio Metallica. And then moving on, Carlisle grand opening. Again, as per previous retro read-throughs, you always got these vouchers for store openings and stuff where you could get some money off. Games Day and Golden Demon 1995. The old bronze Space Marine trophy. And then there's the categories for various different miniatures. So these are the winners from 1994. Neil Tomlinson, first place Warhammer 40,000 single miniature. Nell Stormcaller, looks like a slight conversion on that. Warp Spiders, which we've just seen revealed, they're going to be coming back for Warhammer 40,000 after a long time. So finally an update on Warp Spiders, but those old miniatures are still awesome. Very old Carnifex there. Old epic Eldar Titan there as well. Commended Battle Scene or Diorama. And then another epic battle scene as well. Not epic, I should say, but as in epic as in it's brilliant. Grom the Paunch there. Awesome. And then Youngbloods, we've got an old plastic miniature there from 2nd edition 40k. Wolverhampton grand opening. And then moving on, Warhammer characters. So we've got Krell, Lord of the Undead, just there. Legends speak of the mighty Krell, dreaded Lord of the Undead, raised to undeath by Nagash himself, a powerful enemy of the old world. In battle he wields the black axe of Krell, carved out of obsidian rock and enchanted with deadly magic. And then we've got Astragoth, High Priest of Hashut. Will we see a more modern version of him coming back to Age of Sigmar when the Legions of Hashut, followers of Hashut, or whatever they're going to be called, when the Chaos Dwarves come back to Age of Sigmar? Because I still firmly believe they're coming back. They've dropped too many hints now. So Astragoth is the oldest and most powerful of the mighty sorcerers of the Chaos Dwarfs. Encased in his cunning mechanical harness, he hurls potent magic at the enemy ranks, scattering them before him. And then we've got some Clan Skyer Warpfire Throwers. Bit of background on Chaos Dwarfs and Astragoth, I should say. Some awesome Chaos Dwarf artwork there, and then various bits on his magic items and magic spells. Chaos Dwarf, such an interesting race for Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, with the hats and stuff like that, and the blunderbusses and the weapons they used to carry. And then we've got the Tallarn Desert Raiders. I absolutely loved these when they came out. I only bought the Catachan Jungle Fighters and the Desert Raiders. I never got any of the other ones. I was always impressed with these miniatures, and I think it was because of this camo scheme that they painted them in White Dwarf. That one was my favourite there with the goggles. Really, really cool looking miniatures. And then, as with all the other Metal Imperial Guard minis, they actually released some different weapon teams and some various troopers with special weapons and stuff like that. And they were just a fantastic looking set. And it's a shame they're so expensive on eBay now. I'd love to see them redone and get like a modern update. You never know, we might see some for Kill Team, or we might see a plastic update, or maybe the one day they'll do a made to order like they did for the Steel Legion. But really fantastic looking set of Imperial Guard minis, and I do want to get some one day and get them back in my collection. And then we've got some background on the Tallarn Desert Raiders, or so you would think, but there's not actually a lot of background on the Desert Raiders themselves. It's more the background on Tallarn and what happened with the Eldar. So obviously Tallarn, before the Horus Heresy, was like a lush and vibrant world. And then the Horus Heresy happened, it got virus bombed, the Iron Warriors were there, we had the big Battle of Tallarn, which is the biggest tank battle in the history of anything. And then after that had happened, it was just basically a desert world, and the people of Tallarn lived in domes or in caverns underground. And when they were digging these caverns, they basically came across this wall of black rock, and when they eventually excavated it, it was like a giant circle over a mile across with what looked like Eldar runes on it. And then all of a sudden it changed, and it turns out that this was actually a gateway, a vortex, one of the 3 mythical Eldar gateways, and out of it eventually poured Chaos Legions. The Eldar attacked Tallarn, didn't explain what they were doing, they just obviously were looking after themselves, attacked this warp portal, all the Chaos forces poured out, and then the Eldar and the Tallarn ended up joining forces and eventually beat the Chaos forces back, formed a truce, and then went their own way. They sealed it up again, buried it under sand and plasterite and all that sort of stuff. The Eldar and Tallarn remained, sealed the pacts of friendship and what have you. It's quite a good read, but unfortunately there's just not much on the actual unit, the Tallarn Desert Raiders, other than they're great at skirmishing and ambushing and things like that. But a nice little bit of lore and stuff like that on Tallarn. The Tallarn, the dead fighters from Tallarn went back to the domes and they extracted their water from the dead bodies and put them in the tanks. Bit grim. But then this is the only little bit about the Tallarn Desert Raiders. You got your points, weapons, and the profile. The rest of it is just the background, unfortunately. But still an interesting read. Games Workshop Basingstoke. Again, we've got our vouchers there for Titan Legions, Fantasy Blood Bowl, 40k 2nd edition. Nice metal chaplain there as well, one of 4. Then Warhammer Quest Mission Impossible. So we've got a scenario for Warhammer Quest with some dungeon cards and various rules. There was a it was there. There was a dungeon floor plan and equipment card, but obviously the previous owner of this magazine has utilised that and used it for his. This wasn't mine. I've had to get a backup copy of this, but so that's gone. But yeah, some nice, interesting rules for Warhammer Quest. And you can see the Pit Fighter there. That was the expansion set for Warhammer Quest. Then moving on, we've got some absolutely glorious Rogue Trader Era and 2nd edition 40k Space Wolves, painted by Kim Seiberg, and he's done the Grey Hunters with some slight conversions as well, all painted absolutely stunningly. Long fangs as well. I love how the more senior a Space Wolf gets back in the day when they were painting them up like this, the more bling you would have on him and stuff like that. Really nicely painted long fangs there. That looks like a conversion as well. Space Marine old school land speeder there as well. That thumbs up is definitely a conversion. And then moving on, we've got an advert for the Razorback, again with a metal turret there for the Rhino kit. Blood Claws with jump packs, which is pretty awesome, nicely painted. And then we've got some Wolf Scouts as well. Really, really nicely painted Space Wolves, always a pleasure to see. And then we've got custom Wolf Lord there, which is a conversion on Ragnar Blackmane, of course. Used Ragnar's body as a base, but added loads of different bits, heads, power axe and a bolt pistol rather than Frostfang and Ragnar's mastercrafted bolt pistol. Wolfguard Terminators, again some slight conversions there. And then we've got Space Wolf Dreadnought Raygon, so it's not beyond the fell-handed, it's just a conversion there as well. We've got a Space Wolf Predator, really nicely done, nicely painted. I love that battle damage on the turret and on the front there. Space Marine Land Speeder, what a stunning Space Marine army. I'd love to turn up to a table playing Space Wolves and this guy would turn up with these Space Wolves. I'd be absolutely blown away. Empire in Flames Roadshow, every event there'll be special prizes, a limited edition Bugman's baseball cap. How awesome is that? And then Modelling Workshop. So these are the kind of things in White Dwarf that I miss. How to make card buildings for Warhammer Fantasy in this instance, using cornflake box, PVA glue, sellotape, a couple of drink straws and a pair of scissors. Obviously it's been painted rather well by the heavy metal team, but you could actually build this quite easily. And as you see when we turn over, the templates are there and instructions on how to do it. You can see they've used a cereal box there. So basically you would just photocopy this, cut it out, stick it on some card and fold it all together and glue it all together. Obviously it's not going to look as perfect as that because it never does, but it is nice how they've used separate bits of card to do the slates on the roof. I can't remember if it's on this page or the next page. You can see there's a little bit for the chimney there as well, instructions on how to put it together, and then tiling the roof as well. So basically cutting strips of card and just cutting some zigzag patterns into them and laying them over the top of each other until you get to the top where you'd cut one twice as wide, fold it in half, and then you've got your bit to go over the top of the roof, and then just basically paint it up. And this is the kind of thing we've lost from the hobby, I think. A lot of people just don't do this anymore. One, because they can't be bothered. Two, because they forget that stuff like this ever existed, and the advent of terrain that we can buy nowadays, 3D printed terrain, MDF terrain, stuff like that. It's very, very easy to get decent looking terrain without having to go to the lengths of getting your box of special cane, cutting it up with a pair of scissors and using templates. But I think some of the magic of the hobby was here in stuff like this, making buildings out of card and getting like fairy liquid bottles and sticking a few straws and gantries in it and painting it all silver and making it look like an oil refinery. Stuff like that I think we're definitely missing. If you're feeling really Blue Peter adventurous, you could go for more advanced styles. Stick strips of lollipop sticks on the side to look like wood, and things like that. So you could build more different buildings, more styles of buildings, I should say. But very, very cool, and I would love to see something like this come back to White Dwarf on a regular basis. And then again, we're back to adverts. We just see one for Altrincham that we didn't talk about, but Harrogate, Northampton. So they were opening stores left, right and centre back in the day, looking at all these various different adverts that we're seeing. And again, you've got all these vouchers and tokens and stuff that you can use to get some money off. I wish they'd do that again as well. And then mail order, Space Wolves Army box as well. What a box. Can you imagine that on eBay now, sealed, how much that would go for? Didn't even bear thinking about. Mail order at the time was brilliant. You just give them the number of the part that you need, which you'll see in a moment, and you could get it from mail order. It was pretty cool. So box armies, 2,000 point Space Wolf army, £95. Back then, that was pretty darn pricey. Again, with the Ultramarines army box set, £95. 1,000 point Space Orc army, £110. That's quite a lot. 2,000 point Eldar army, £100. Space Marine army, £90. Fantasy Battle, Orc and Gobbo's army, £115 for 2,000 points. 2,000 point Undead army, 105. High Elf army, 115 for 2,000 points. So it varied on price looking back at it. Titan Legions box game, $39.99. You know, you had your Emperor class Titan and then 2 Mega Gargants and all the knights and the battle wagons and stuff. Brilliant box. Space Marine, $39.99. The Battles book, a tenner. Armies of the Imperium, Renegades, and Orc and Squat Warlords, and the Hive War. They were the square boxes of expansion boxes you could get for Epic. And then we've got 40k, $39.99. Dark Millennium was 20 quid. White Dwarf presents Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Warhammer 40,000 Battles, £10. Codexes were all £10 each. Sustained Fire Dice, 50p each. And then self-adhesive banners available for Space Wolves and Space Orcs, £3.50. Tallarn Desert Raiders, as we said earlier, $12.99 for a box of 10 metal miniatures. Mordian Iron Guard Lieutenant, $2.75, and the Iron Guard were $12.99 as well. Presumably the Catachan and the Cadian and the Valhallans were the same price. We will go back and look at those White Dwarfs as well in future retro read-throughs so we can see those Imperial Guard minis. Then we got the Whirlwind, 15 quid, minus Calgar 5. I think we spoke about the prices of these earlier on. Services, £2.50. Warhammer Quest, $39.99, and then Pit Fighter expansion was a tenner. Warhammer Fantasy Battle was, again, just like 40k, was £40. Battle Magic, $19.99, and then your Magic book was $14.99. Chaos, Warhammer Armies Chaos, $14.99. Chaos Dwarfs, $9.99, and then we've got Astragoth, £4.99. Blunderbusses, $1.75 each, which we'll see in a moment, and then Skaven, £5 each for the Warp Fire Throwers and the Warplock Giselles, but you did get 2 models with that and that. And then Clan Sky Globadiers, $2.99 each. High Elves, spit my teeth out. Dragon Princes of Calador, $3.99 each. Reaver Knights we spoke about. Reaver Knight Command, $2.99 each. White Lions of Trace, $1.75 each. And we've got Chaos Knights, $3.99. Same with Command. And then you've got your Undead. Krell, Lord of the Undead, $4.99. And the Von Carsteins, or Von Carsteins I should say, $4.99 each. Henrik Himmler, a Ghost and a Vampire, which we'll see in a moment. Blood Bowl, 30 quid as well. So, mail order form, you put what you wanted with your magic code. So if you wanted to order that piece, you would put that on this form, send it off to mail order with the price, or a postal order, or just ring them up. And you could get anything. You could get individual parts, which was really cool. So there's your Space Marine Whirlwind with instructions on how to stick it together for your nice top heavy Rhinos variant. Then your Mordian Iron Guard, so various different troops. So you get 10 in a box, so there are a couple of duplicates if I recall correctly. So 4, 6, 8, I think you got 2 of a couple of the troopers. But a nice looking team. I didn't really like them personally, but nice that they had all these different regiments back in the day. Tallarn Desert Raiders, absolutely awesome. Love these miniatures. Again with the Catachans and the Ice Warriors as well. Space Marine Landspeeder, metal Landspeeder. Nice big chunk of metal. You did not want to drop it off the table because it will explode. Instructions today to put it together. And then we've got our Marnis Calgar Veteran Sergeants. These are some really nice miniatures. Space Marine Librarians, so Lexicanium, Epistolary, Codicia, and examples of completed Space Marines with your plastic back banner, of course. Company Standard Bearer, Tech Marines, and then we've got our Chaos Knights, so you can see the various different horse heads. And moving on, Reaver Knights, so Reaver Knight Champion, Standard Bearer, and then various knights. You've got your legs that go on the horses. You've got your White Lions down here, some really nice old school miniatures there. Dragon Princes of Calador, so the old metal Dragon Princes. Very flimsy looking lances, I've got to say. Never had any of the metal ones, so I don't know what they were like. You got your Dragon Prince horse heads, which were absolutely stunning, I've got to say. And then examples of completed Dragon Princes of Calador. And then moving on, we've got Skaven Warp Fire Thrower, so a completed Warp Fire Thrower team. Warlock Giselles, the very early versions of them, not like we've seen in the new AOS starter set. And then we've got the Poison Wind Globadiers. These are nice miniatures, got to say, with little gas masks. Astragoth, Priest of Hashut. So we've got the various components with his exhaust and banner poles. And then we've got the old Chaos Dwarf blunderbusses with the funky hats. So there's 7 different versions, I should say. Really, really cool retro old school miniatures. I do love those. And then moving on for the Undead, we've got Krell, Lord Krell of the Undead. Vampire, completed Vampire there. We've got really Interesting looking ghost. Then we've got Heinrich Kemmler, the Leash Master, Isabella von Karstein, and Count von Karstein as well. Old school vampire miniatures there. We've got our Warlord Titan. So you got Vortex Missile, Gatling Blaster, Quake Cannon, Chain Fist. Nice miniature. Again, I remember seeing these on the tabletops and just thinking, I want one of those. And then lastly, we've got those Chimera variants. So we've got the completed Chimera, or they've got Chimero, Chimerax, and Chimedon. Some bonkers names. And then lastly, we've got the advertisement for Warhammer Quest with all the various different things used to get in that. So that's like a cousin to Hero Quest, a descendant to Hero Quest. Awesome game. Never had it myself, but I remember people speaking quite highly of that one. Interesting to see what copies of that go for on eBay as well, if you ever fancied a little search on eBay. And then moving on, as always, we've got a bit of art on the back cover. The Elector Counts of Midland, Ostland, and Avaland and Hockland lead an Empire army against the Chaos Dwarfs. We've got a massive Chaos Dwarf army there with the Bull Centaur in the middle against a pretty big Empire army as well with the War Wagon. Nice bit of artwork, and it looks as though this was stored on in some sort of file because we've got some colour discoloration there as well. But that is it. That is a look at White Dwarf 185. Back from May 95, I think I said it was at the beginning. Yeah, May 1995. Really nice issue of White Dwarf, again taking me back down memory lane. I love this artwork. Some of these covers are absolutely incredible. You can see the Warhound Titans in the background there. These massive big battle scenes, Terminators, and this cover art, not this magazine, but the cover art for Codex Ultramarines was the thing that actually wanted me to collect Ultramarines back in the day. Again, yeah, it just takes me down memory lane. I love looking at these old White Dwarf magazines. I know these aren't going to be the most popular videos. I don't really care, to be honest. I do these because I love looking through the old White Dwarf mags, so why not share it and then other people can have a look as well. If there's any issues that you want me to have a look through, as I've said in previous versions of this, do let me know what issues you want to see. If I don't have it, I will find it on eBay and I'll get one and I'll do a retro read through of it because I just love reading the old White Dwarfs. Next up, we've got White Dwarf 173. Sadly, I don't have the old world map in it. I'd love to find one with that map, but I think it's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. And then we've got 204 and 205, which we'll be taking a look through as well. So plenty more to come, and I want to get some more of these done. I've got a couple pre-recorded. But yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Let me know you've enjoyed it. And if you didn't like it, don't give it a thumbs down. Just leave me a comment and let me know what you didn't like, because at the end of the day, that will help me make better videos for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because there's plenty more on the way. You don't have to hit the bell notification, so you're not going to get spammed, but it won't cost you anything to click that subscribe button, but it will really help me out on the channel. So please consider doing that. But anyway, waffled on long enough, as usual. Thanks to James for donating his copy of White Dwarf to eBay. I don't know if you can see that, but somebody's written James on it in pen. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. As always, I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Take care.